Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to Game Week 7. My name is Fergi, and as usual, I am here with the brilliant Rich Clarke, who did a fabulous job hosting last week. Rich, well done. Sterling job. Listened to a bit of it, but I was too drunk to finish it, if I'm being honest, but really enjoyed it and really good stuff. Rich, how are you, and what colour was your arrow in Game Week 6?
I'm very well. Like you, I was away on a golf weekend, so focusing kind of on the Ryder Cup last weekend, and great Ryder Cup, great win for Europe. And but I did have time to put the triple captain on Erling Haaland in the face of the hordes of wildcarders out there. So was very pleased with the way that battle went and how that came off. I think we'll get on to the spaffometer in a minute because we've got to update it for both of us. But yeah, really enjoyed it. I had my 2 transfers saved to do the Haaland switcheroo that many of us were doing, and I sold Salah, bought in Semenyo because I hadn't owned him yet, so a bit late on him, but he returned as well. And then Watkins went from my team for Haaland, and so 55 points from those 2 transfers. You can't fall off, can you? Really, it's fantastic. So
you take that.
Absolutely brilliant. And then, but I got to Saturday morning, and I was on my way to play this golf weekend, and I thought, oh yeah, the team still doesn't look quite strong enough to take on the wildcarders. So I took a FOMO hit for Bruno Fernandes because I was sick of Verts, and I decided I'd go for Bruno a week early because I wanted him for the Sunderland game, and I brought him in.
Yeah, get
your violin out. Yeah, it's not quite as funny as your story, but basically that obviously backfired. I heard he missed a penalty. I didn't see the game. I was on the golf course, but I heard he missed a penalty. He got booked as well, and ended up with a nice fat -1. So I think if I just kept Verts for his blank, I'd have been 7 points better off than that. So a small violin moment, but on the whole, look, at nearly 2 million green arrow. You can't complain about that. Half my rank. So let's hope we can carry on doing that.
Yeah, superb, mate. As you say, the cream is rising, and yeah, let's have a look at the spaffometer, the updated one. Rich, I think it's probably fair to say that a smashed it is probably in order for your triple captain. Are you in agreement?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, on a single game week, I mean, you'd be pretty happy with 16 points in a double game week, wouldn't you? On a triple captain, 2 returns, but yeah, two goals, an assist, and some bonuses is lovely. Yeah, so glad got that out of the way. Still got 3 chips to come, and the 2 strongest ones as well. So it's great.
Lovely job, mate. Just say a quick hello in the chat to everyone who's here. App UK is in. Workable Meat says 1.7 million now after rising. Zara says, hi everyone, are we shades of green or red? Well, both, as you can see, both Rich and I are shades of green, which is nice. Let us know in the chat how you are getting on this season. Colin Johnson said, hi guys, welcome back. Fergie, that triple cap Haaland might have hurt. Ouch. Yeah, I played it obviously on Chris Wood in Game Week 4, sort of going for it a touch, but it is what it is. And I owned Haaland, which is the main thing. We'll look at my team now. I owned Haaland and captained him. That would have hurt if I hadn't have done it. Ian McLaughlin is in. Colin Johnston. Cloud Sky Fancy Football says, afternoon, Jans. Able to tune in. Quick question. Are the hares from weeks 1, 2, and 3 now being reeled in by the tortoises? Are they in danger of being left behind altogether? We'll touch on that now, maybe, as we look at the lie of the land. And there was a very nice comment. Where was it? Down the bottom. Ross Johnson asks, he says, Fergie, he's back from Spafghanistan. Let's go. I like that. Very good. And Subramaniam, when is Amarim getting the sack? That was another interesting result last week. And I was out on the course with 2 Man United fans as the news came through of Brentford's leads, and the guy I was playing with, who was on the team Man United fan, chunked his drive into the woods on the left straight after hearing that news. That wasn't a very good few minutes for him. In terms of my team, yeah, I was away last weekend, as well as you know, obviously, because Richard does a superb job hosting, so I was completely out of the loop as well. It was sort of wake up, breakfast, golf, and out sort of job. So I was massively out of the loop. And on, I think it was the Friday evening, I've just found myself in this pub or club or wherever it was, had far too much to drink, and I thought, oh, I'd better have a look at my FPL team, as you do at like 1:30 in the morning. And I don't know if you ever have it, Rich. Have you ever had it where you make a transfer, or you before you confirm your transfer, you make it, but because you haven't looked at the tab for a couple of days, the prices are wrong, and it sort of messes up, and it tells you to revert or wherever else. Anyway, so I had a very simple double transfer, which was Salah and who did I take out? Chris Wood for Haaland and Ndiaye, and that was my plan all week. Just a very simple. I love it when I know my plan in advance. Very, very easy. But I saw a lot of chat about Foden, so I was like, I wonder if I can do Haaland and Foden. I just wonder, and somehow with my drunk thumbs and fingers at 1:30 in the morning, I managed to just mess around and put Foden in, and just confirm the Foden transfer by itself. So I did Salah to Foden, and I was like,
okay.
oh, what have I done here?
And Haaland had gone up.
So I went back in to do Wood to Haaland. I was 0.1 short, and I was fuming. And I stood up from my seat and I walked back to my hotel, sobered up straight away, absolutely living myself. Like, all this work, all these hours and days of planning and scheming. I'm sat in a bar in like Portugal, just pissing around with my stupid thumbs, drunk on this thing, and I managed to do that. So anyway, after a lot of self-talk in the mirror, and a bit of thought, I decided, well, I had to get Haaland in, right? There was just exactly, violins in, right? I had to get Haaland in. There was no way I wasn't. So it was just working out the best course of action with a hit. But I was very fortunate, I must say. I did Milenkovic to Senesi, which worked out +2 even with the hit. So
yeah, okay.
77.
Yeah, and you kind of made up although you took a hit, you've kind of improved your team for this week, haven't you?
I was very fortunate. So 77 -4 had a cement. Oh, I'm still on Rich's team on the slide here. Yes, Semenyo, obviously Haaland captain. I kept Watkins, and I'm keeping him this week as well, because I just like these back-to-back sort of home fixtures, but nothing else to write about really at all. Looking at it, and Senesi as well. I was fortunate. So how I got a green, I'll never know really, because I only had Haaland, Watkins, Semenyo, and Senesi. All the rest were 1 and 2 pointers. So, but I'll take it, mate, and move on.
Yeah.
And just before we look at the lie of the land, actually, let's have a look at our new app if you haven't seen it. And this is for anyone looking for more fantasy action this weekend. We've just launched something new called Fantasy Gaming Hub, and it's perfect for when you're watching games without any of your FPL picks involved. You just open a pack, pick 6 players, make a team, and it takes 2 minutes and you're in. Think FIFA Ultimate Team meets FPL, but it's faster and built for match days. It's currently UK only, but will be opened out globally very, very soon. It's free to play, and we're all competing in the bottom leagues at the moment to see how fast we can rise. But there are plenty of tips on how to play, and also winning tips on the Fantasy Football Hub website. For game week 7, there are match days. So there'll be one on Friday specifically for the Bournemouth and Fulham game, I think it is. And then there are match days Saturday and Sunday as well, with weekly prize up for grabs. So click the link below, open your free pack and join us. It's really, really good fun. We're all in there somewhere in the bottom leagues and really, really enjoyed it. It's also a very slick, cool experience as well. So have a go. So anyway, back to FPL, and lie of the land, Rich.
Yes.
And to Ian's point, I suppose we want to have a look back first, don't we? I think the first 6 weeks of the season, overall, sort of how it's gone, and and to Ian's point, the hares and the tortoises, and we're going to review a bit of data now, aren't we, to help us move forward. But what are your thoughts on the opening 6 weeks and the whole hare versus tortoise discussion?
I mean, we said after a couple of weeks, didn't we, that the ranks didn't matter. I mean, I think you've got to reach a point at some stage where the ranks do start to matter. I think in the next 6 weeks we need to start getting ourselves up towards the top, into the top mill, up towards the top 500k if we're serious about finishing well. But yeah, it certainly hasn't gone completely to plan, has it? In the first 6 weeks, it's been a difficult thing. And at the beginning of the season, you only really have fixtures to help you out. There's no form of sorts, and so the models are not as accurate and predictive as they are. But we are reaching about the time now. We've got 6 weeks of critical data, so hopefully from this point things will become a little bit more predictive, and things, it just feels like, I felt like last week and this week when I was doing some content, things are just starting to settle down a bit now. The outliers are just starting to settle down. We know a lot more about the Defcon guys to go for, particularly in the defense. There seemed to be a bit up and down with clean sheets. Initially we had loads of clean sheets, and now last few weeks we've hardly had any, so that's all coming back towards the average. And I think we knew there was going to be a fixture turn at this stage, and this is the first real big fixture turn, towards Arsenal, and therefore another real wild card opportunity around this time. So I think we're at a good junction point to review things. Yeah.
I think in terms of the hare and the tortoise, I think the wild card for me, maybe a bit of confirmation bias on my side, but there's been a lot of earlier wildcards played down there. There was a lot played in Game Week 4, a few played in Game Week 5, a lot played in Game Week 6 as well. And obviously they've seen the initial fruit of their wildcard, which generally on a wildcard week you tend to score well, better than the average normally, and that will sort of decay now down a touch, won't it? So I think the wild card for me is the big chip, in terms of if you've used that, then you can, and depending where you are, you can obviously rise up, but you can also go down. Whereas I think if you have got the wild cards kind of play, you've still got that massive chip in the bank that I'm really happy to have still, and I just can't find the right time to play it, Rich. I was never playing in Game Week 6. I was looking for this week, Game Week 7, and I went on I went on Fantasy Football Hub on my team, and I've got a 91% team rating. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, well, that's excellent. I clicked through to Game Week 8 after my planned transfer, 90% team rating. I'm like, well, when am I going to play this wild card? The question I wanted to ask you, just about the wild card, Rich, because obviously last year was huge in terms of wild card flops, Game Week 6, right? But generally speaking, wildcards in the second half of the season used to set up chips, like bench boosts and this, that, and the other. So they're very much a tool to enable the rest of your tips to optimize all these mega hauls that become available in the double game weeks. What kind of generally happens in the first half of the season is it's always like a fixture swing, and it's always, look at that, like Arsenal fixture swing now, for example, Game Week 7, or I think it was Man City last year, or so wherever it is. But it never, well, for me anyway, and maybe I'm just speaking about my own experience, never seems to really work out that much in terms of, if you
doesn't.
if you look at our teams now, they're pretty good, right? You've got the majority of the players we kind of want at this point. Now, I haven't got any Arsenal players. I want an Arsenal player too, obviously, and there's probably one or two others I want, but there's not 5 or 6 players I want. I've got Haaland, got Semenyo, got Senesi now, got a core of players I'm reasonably happy with. And what are your thoughts on just? It's almost wildcard and sake. It's almost like I've got a good. It's trying to go from good to great, instead of maybe saving it for a time where you are running out of steam and then getting back to good. If that makes sense.
I think one learning I've got from last year is that last year I felt you and me, we sort of played it when the herd wanted to play it, when the community was playing it, and there was a lot of that last week. We had Bakar on, and fair play, Bakar wasn't the only one doing it, but he presented pretty much what was a template wildcard team. You'll recognize it in 6 to 8 weeks time. It'll still look exactly the same as it does now, in terms of the 3 Defcon monsters plus Gabriel plus Raya plus Fernandez plus you can name it. Everyone was saying it's such a template wildcard that the community is playing. Gian, on the other hand, presented a kind of a case for waiting till Game Week 13, and when you can actually swing to almost a completely different team, and have almost 11 different players to what the template would be when City, Liverpool, Newcastle all have a massive upswing before Christmas. And I think it is appealing. I don't think it'll look exactly the same then as it does now, but it is appealing to play that kind of mass upswing, because I think if you play a wild card this week, you're just going to really have 2 extra Arsenal players to
Yeah, I think so.
to what we have, and I don't think that's enough. I think I'd rather play my wild card when I've got 4 or 5 flags. A couple of guys who've been dropped. I'm desperate to bench boost and I'm running out of weeks. But at the moment, as you say, I think our teams, when you see them later on, look pretty solid, especially after another free transfer. So yeah, I would just say play it when you need it and play it when your gut tells you to play it. I'm sure that the models will say that last week was an optimal week to play it, and that's why a lot of guys did. But I certainly would rather have it than not right now, and so therefore I'm quite comfortable with the rank and the position.
And what do you think of sort of individual game states? So if someone is now, just for example, ranked at 8 or 9 million, which many very good FPL managers are, because it just hasn't gone their way at the moment.
Yeah.
Does that play into it at all? Would you still be waiting for game week 13, or would you say, look, you need to change something?
I think you have to take some. You have to take some notice of a poor rank at this stage after 6 weeks. If you are down below sort of 6 million, between 6 and 10 million, you've got to get something moving soon, because I think I found myself at 4 mil after 12 weeks last season, and it took the whole rest of the season to grind it back. I played the last sort of 2/3 of the season pretty well, top 100k kind of performance, but it only got back to 200k at the end. So you've got to start taking notice of it and get things moving. It's not desperation yet, but if it doesn't go well, in game week 13, you're going to be right down the bottom, and things will be a lot harder to climb up. So I would say, take a little bit of notice of the game state. But I'd say if you're ranked between 2 and 5 million now, you can still play it when you want to play it. That's
well, according to some content creators, rank doesn't matter till game week 18 or 19 anyway. So I'm sure they're still not even looking at their rank, and they're just playing it their way. So, looking at the fixture ticker for the next 4 weeks, Wolves are top. Obviously not much excitement in Wolves at the moment, but they are top ticker at the moment. Second we mentioned is Arsenal, so they're home to West Ham. Thought West Ham did a decent job to get a point at Everton on Monday night. Not an easy place to go at all. So maybe that's not quite as attractive a fixture as it was. I think Gyökeres played 90. Gabriel went off 73. With a potential, a potential not, but but we're not sure about that. Then they're away to Fulham in 8, home to Palace in 9, away to Burnley in 10. So a nice little run there for Arsenal. Brighton have got a pretty decent run. Leeds, Stack looks popular at the moment, doesn't he? And then Burnley, and then Spurs have run down the bottom. Brentford, I've got a horrific run of City, then West Ham away, Liverpool and Palace. Forest's fixtures have changed. They definitely turned. They go Newcastle, Chelsea, Bournemouth, United, Liverpool run into a bad run at the moment. Hence the kind of Salah to Haaland exodus almost. And Villa have got home to Burnley this week, which is plum. But after that, they go Spurs away, City, and then Liverpool. So that's the kind of lay of land in terms of the fixtures. What does this mean for you, Rich, in terms of your targets?
Ignoring Wolves because they're not very good. I mean, it's all about Arsenal, really. I think if that was what the temptation to wildcard, a little bit of a week early. Yeah. This Game Week 6 wildcard has probably had a few injuries and a few flags, and it's therefore brought it forward to do it a week early. But this was always going to be the week to the Arsenal have the upswing. Probably that West Ham fixture's not going to be as scary as it looked with Nuno at the helm for West Ham. I think with Potter going there, I think it could have been a bit of a turkey shoot. But basically, I think it could be. It could be. I think Arsenal will win the game, but it's more likely to be 2-1, 3-1 or something like that. But yeah, Arsenal assets certainly look like is the time to bring them in. If you have a couple of transfers, I'd use them. If you have one transfer, I would use one. I probably wouldn't take hits. I'd just acquire them steadily over the next few weeks. But I like Arsenal. Brighton is starting to pique some interest a little bit. Yeah. I think you might see some of their players mentioned later on in the pod. Looking at the fixtures for Spurs and Chelsea, they don't look too bad. But the performances of those two teams are starting to worry me. I don't know what you think about Spurs, but Chelsea look like, got a defence like a sieve at the moment. We keep getting players sent off. João Pedro's carrying a bit of an injury. We have no other backup striker. Palmer's out. It's not looking great for Chelsea at the moment, despite the fixture upswing that's coming around game week 8, 9 onwards. So don't like Chelsea much. Don't like Spurs much. Sunderland look a decent side, over recent weeks. Their fixtures have slipped off the top of the ticker down to the middle, but, they're going really well. So they still offer value, particularly on some of the defensive options. And, also Newcastle look like they're turning the corner a little bit with the likes of Valtemada and Gordon showing some form. So, yeah, I still, I know I'm talking about form here and not fixtures, but they are kind of linked. If you have good fixtures plus an upturn in performance, then that's where you want to look.
Yep, agree, mate. Good stuff. Let's have a look so far at the players XG. So this is non-pen XG now so far, and I mean this is absolutely ridiculous after 6 game weeks. Right? Look at that graph.
I mean, we don't normally look at XG, do we? We always look at expected points on this pod. So this is a little bit of a deeper dive into the first 6 weeks of data. And so we're talking about goals here over the first 6 weeks. And I mean, just look at that difference. Haaland versus the field, 7.4 expected goals.
If you haven't got Haaland, buy Haaland.
Yeah. He's overachieved that expectation. I think he's got 8.
Overachieved.
Yeah.
And he got something like 4. Has he got 14 goals so far this season? Something ridiculous like that, including Europe, and absolutely mental. So,
I mean, it's mad. So yeah, the closest player to him is Mateta, which is nice to see, but he's only on 2.8 expected goals for the whole season. So he's almost, well, he is. He's 3 times as much as the next man in terms of his expected goal involvement. So, incredible. Perma captain under that kind of form. Really, don't mess with it. It's just so obvious. But looking down the rest of the list, I mean, there are some bright spots. So Palace in particular, you'll hear us mention Sarr again. He's only played 4 games, and yet he's 4th on this list with 2.8 expected goals, and he has actually scored 3 goals in 4 games already. So he's sort of right on that expectation. We mentioned Mateta. Most of us have Semenyo in our team. You were one of the first on him, weren't you? With your first transfer, he's what does it say? 2.3. I think he's scored 3. Has he, or has he scored 4 goals?
Yeah. He scored the penalty as well, which is not included in this, obviously. So,
so he's overachieved on that number. But again, that kind of overachievement attracts a lot of transfers in. Enzo Fernandez probably looks the best Chelsea option at the moment, given the penalties, given the form he's got. And then Jadon Anthony is the real sort of enabler, bright spark in here for Burnley. And he's about 7th or 8th on that list overall with 2.2 expected goals. So he's I think he has actually scored 4 goals. So there's a lot of overachievers here, but equally there's also a lot of underachievers in here, So you've got some very popular template picks like João Pedro, Gyökeres and Watkins, who've been in most of our teams or a lot of teams so far this season, still well under 2 expected goals in the first 6 weeks. That's not a great return from a striker, less than a third. That's what's about 0.25 of a goal a game, isn't it, or something? Is it? Yeah. What's that? No, it's not. Is it? How was that? What's 1.5 divided by 6? Something like 0.3 of a goal a game. It's not great, is it? You want it to be
0.25.
You want it to be more than that, don't you? It's half a goal a game. Sorry. So you want it to be over half a goal a game. So it's a lot. It's a lot less than Haaland, put it that way. So really, it's saying, there's a lot of over and underachievement out there, a lot of variance, but Haaland is the standout.
He is, mate. I got to apologise to everyone earlier. I meant to mute my own mic to do a massive sniff because I've got a bit of a cold, and I think I muted yours instead, and I did. So everyone would have not heard you, and they would have heard my massive sniff. So apologies.
You're grolly.
Apologies for that earlier. Absolute wally. Okay. But yeah, I think something just on this as well, Rich, because I think some of these XG numbers, obviously Haaland on the side here, they're fairly decent, but they're also they seem to be reasonably low in terms of what defenders are scoring as well. Have you got have you got any thoughts? 3-4-3 has always been the sort of the classic FPL way with the limitations that defenders are scoring points. And I know we've seen some goals from defenders and things which are kind of out of the ordinary. But we'll move on to Defcon now. But is Defcon
I think
playing a part in terms of changing the formation of FPL?
I think the Defcons kind of bring the answer to that out, don't they? We'll see here that most people wildcarding now are putting in at least 3 sort of Defcon monsters, as they're known, people who've achieved Defcon in most of their games so far. Only Senesi's hit it in all 6. And I was listening to some content today that apparently going back over the last 6 years, I think it was, only one player has only ever hit Defcon in 6 consecutive matches before in 6 seasons.
That's crazy.
So Senesi is a real outlier. I think it was Joachim Andersen actually has done it before in a run of 6 games, and he appears in the list. So again, a good pick. But yeah, Senesi is a real outlier to hit it 6 times out of 6. So you can't expect him to keep that 100% run up for too much longer. But nevertheless, it's a great start, and he still looks a great pick at 4.9. So yeah, I think the case for certainly playing 4 at the back, or considering playing 4 at the back in your squad, if all of them have a decent fixture, there's nothing wrong with it. And we're going to see people rolling out 4-4-2. I haven't quite made that adjustment yet. I sort of always keep thinking, which 3 defenders am I going to play when I set my team up? But because of those relatively poor attacking returns so far, no one's really standing out, including Salah, including Bruno. The other thing is we've got a lot of injured premiums at the moment. Palmer's out, Saka's not fully firing yet. Bruno Fernandes is playing in a very defensive position. So anyone over 9 million, you've only really got Haaland who's performing, and therefore playing 4 defenders who are going to have a floor of 4 points or 3 or 4 points is certainly could be the way to go. I know some people have gone early on that and have been playing that way, and they're probably ranked higher than you and me, mate. I should think.
I think so. And I was just going to say that maybe the reason, Rich, why you haven't adjusted and I haven't adjusted yet to just doing this 4 at the back is because we haven't wildcarded yet. I think if we were to put out our 11 and look at our bench and have Tarkowski, Anderson, and Richards, we'd be like, oh, really? And we would probably look to play those sorts of players ahead of our maybe 3rd forward or 5th midfield, maybe 5th and 4th midfielder, for example. But because we're not quite there yet, we've still got, the rogues we brought in on game week 1. I've still got Dacopa, for example, and all this. I know he scored off the bench last week, but I'm never going to start him. Whereas I think it's a very different thought process if I had a Tarkowski who had, even if Everton are away to Man City, Tarkowski has still got the opportunity to score well, for example. So it's interesting, and I do think that we will see a change in formation, a change to the default, the 3-4-3, potentially to maybe a hybrid of a 4-3-3 or 4-4-2. Depends on the fixture, depending whether that 3rd striker spot is really available, because there's not abundance of forwards at the moment in there who are all sort of fighting for our team.
Well,
I know,
and it's going to become
interview now, but
it's going to become more of a squeeze when we want Saka and Palmer and Haaland, or we want Salah back because he hits a rich vein of form. As soon as he scores a couple of braces, we're all going to want him back again. And then you've got to squeeze Salah and Haaland back into your team, and you're going to want those 4.5 to 5 million Defcon guys, and you won't be having Van Dijk, you won't be having Gabriel, you won't be having the 6 million guys, because you'll need every penny you got to afford your triple up of the premiums. And at the moment we're in a period where you can quite happily just rock along with Haaland, and you don't even need anyone other. You might have a placeholder like Bruno there for a premium that's easy to jump to, but you don't really need another premium player in your team at the moment, and it won't always be like that. So
no, I agree, but I'm not sure I agree on Salah. I don't know. I think those days are gone, and it's not. I'm not saying
his goose is cooked.
Well, I think his goose is cooked, but it's not because Salah himself. I just think that everyone play like he's played with Trent, haven't he? The whole time he's been there, he's now got new player. He's got Frimpong, who's a very different player to Trent or Bradley, for example. The player just inside him versus the player up front, Isak or Ekiti. The whole dynamic all around him has completely changed this season. You can tell, he hasn't looked the same, but I'm not saying that is his fault as an individual person. I think the whole dynamic in Liverpool has changed, and they've got such if you think last year and the team they had last year, it was just all focused on Salah. It was all Salah, Salah, Salah. Whereas now they've got some, they had Darwin Núñez and all that front. It was all get to Salah. Whereas now they've got fabulous players all over the pitch, and I do think the relationship he had with Trent has obviously gone now, and I personally think is impacting as well. So
yeah, interesting.
But yeah,
it doesn't feel scary not owning him at the moment, does it?
No, and if he does, all right, he may get a penalty, he may get a goal, but it's not like like 2 goals, 2 assists sort of thing, which obviously he's done to us in the past.
Well, he wasn't even on that. He wasn't even on that chart, was he? He didn't
exactly
on the
that.
chart earlier. So,
onto midfielders, and I suppose my big observation, Rich, on midfielders is that there's probably not one player on here for me anyway, and maybe you think differently, that you would pick out with real potential for attacking returns. Maybe 1 or 2, but it's I think it's a push. Whereas when you look at the defenders, there's a couple of defenders you would maybe pick anyway for clean sheets and potential attacking returns. Not really on the mids. What are your thoughts on the Defcon midfielders?
I think so. I think my conclusion was if I was wildcarding tomorrow, I would definitely go for some Defcon guys in defence, and I would probably look around the 4.5 and up. So I perhaps wouldn't have Munoz in my team, who I do. I would probably go for Richards because he's so consistent, and I would have 4.5 Defconners to give me more money to afford premium attackers, but I'd be looking for attacking returns in attackers rather than defensive returns in attackers. One thing that's notable from this is Bruno Fernandes is nowhere to be seen, who, we were talking about his Defcon potential and his Defcon consistency. He's not in the top 10. He might be 11th or 12th. He's had a couple of Defcon returns, but he's not getting them every week. Paquetá, who was a flavour of the week a couple of weeks back as a recommended transfer, again, he could come into his own because he's like a 5.9 million Bruno, and he has the potential to get Defcons, but it all depends on how West Ham move forward. On here, would you have any of these on your wild card? You wouldn't have Anderson now anymore from Forest because their fixtures have turned. You might have Granit Xhaka, because Sunderland's form is good, but their fixtures are also on the turn. So I'd be saying you'd be having a maximum of one of these players on a wildcarded team more as an enabler financially and they'll sit on your bench most of the time. So I think Stack, I don't think does make the table, but he's possibly a good 5 million option. But similarly, Dewsbury Hall, who's suspended at the moment, probably still looks like the most attacking 5 million option, and therefore I probably would go for him over all of these. That's how I think so.
Maybe Garner. Bit in the chat from Zeitgul and Yakni saying Garner's an interesting one on set piece as well potentially, but again. And if you go just a bit further up in price, as the players mentioned earlier, Anthony, Paqueta, they're like 0.7, 0.9 million more, and you just get so much more, don't you? So I personally can't see me. I think no, I would say with Caicedo, he's probably I'm guessing he's overperformed his XG this season. I know he's done really, really well. So has he scored 2 goals so
I think
far?
he scored 2, but he has scored 2. One of them might not have been in the Premier League.
Maybe that's what it is. But I don't think I'll be looking at any of these. I think you can afford to stack up in defence, have Haaland, and then just you build a really strong team. But as we mentioned earlier, it's kind of when to do it, right? Looking ahead to players, Rich, that we are thinking of bringing in ahead of game week 7. We've already touched on the Arsenal boys. You want to run through this little list? Anyone else?
So when I put these forward, this was before sent these through to Scott last night before the Arsenal Champions League game. But the big talking point at bedtime was, is Gabriel injured? It's probably one of the most obvious transfers that's out there this week is to move to Gabriel. whoever you are, if you haven't got him. I'm not sure so many people would be moving for him if he hadn't scored that winner in the 93rd minute or whatever it was last week at Newcastle. But yes, apparently he's okay, according to Arteta. But do you believe what Arteta is saying? Raya landed on him, coming for a cross. And at that point, probably a bit winded, I think, more than anything. But then he was taken off on the 73rd minute. He sat straight down on the bench, didn't go down the tunnel. He wasn't icing an injury. He looked fine. And I think his withdrawal was precautionary. But because we're going into an international break, Fergie, is Arteta going to not play him at the weekend, say he's injured, and then he doesn't have to go to Brazil for 2 weeks for 2 friendlies? I would say that is very within Arteta's capability to play Saliba and Mosquera in the centre of defence, or even play Timber in the centre of defence and leave Gabriel out. So it will be a bit of a bit annoying to spend your free transfer on him, and then he doesn't show up at the weekend.
I think he's a play if you've got him. Don't buy if you haven't, is my personal view, because he's probably going to get 0 or 90 as well. He's not going to come off the I don't know. He probably will now, but I would say he didn't strike me as the kind of player who will come off the bench with 20 minutes left, maybe. And you would expect Arsenal to beat West Ham anyway. So I think for me, it's play him if you've got him. Don't buy if you haven't.
So who would be your next best Arsenal defender that you'd go for if you wanted to bring an Arsenal defender in? Who would you get instead?
Yeah, I'm probably wrong, but I'm still just not convinced on the fullbacks, and it's just because they've just got such so many options. But judging on what we've seen so far, probably Timber. Who would yours be?
Well, I was thinking Timber. Obviously he's done a very good start to the season, one of the top scoring players in the game. I think he got 2 goals in one game, didn't he? So it's just I don't feel so secure about his minutes. I mean, Ben White played in the Champions League last night. He's very capable of rotating for Timber. So I think you maybe are kicking some risk on Gabriel down the road, but you're only going to get it every week with the team sheet with Timber in game week 8 onwards. So I still might go for him. I mean, I don't know. I think it just might play the long game and just bring in Gabriel, assuming he's not injured, and be prepared for some bench.
As long as your first bench is okay, as long as your first bench is okay, you're fine. I think he's probably either injured or he's not. It would be my interesting. Luke McGee in the chat just said Arteta said it was a kick in the first half Gabriel got, not the collision with Raya, which is maybe a touch more concerning than being winded. But we'll hopefully know more, because as we know, Arteta is very, very open with his.
Of course he is. He tells, I'm sure he'll do a special FPL update just before 6:30 on Friday.
I haven't seen him. We'll be training later. We'll see how he is. Thanks a lot, Michael.
Of course. So I mean, if elsewhere across the Arsenal team, obviously, if you haven't got Gyökeres yet, this is the week to bring him in if you are convinced that he looks the real deal. I mean, the jury's out on him a bit, isn't it? Really, I'm not. He doesn't look that great, does he, in the first few weeks? But he is the incumbent striker. They are likely to carry on with him starting games. He appears to be on penalties, although Saka did have the ball in his hand when the penalty was VAR'd out last weekend. So there's still some jeopardy there. We didn't put Saka on the slide this week because he was on the slide last week, and Bakar and Gian both convinced me that Bruno Fernandes was a better buy than Saka last week. I'm not sure he is anymore. Saka scored last night and is now only had 20 minutes in the Champions League. So Saka really arguably should be on here as an option this week. However, I'm going to give Bruno the Sunderland game before I move for Saka. So really, Gyökeres is probably the alternative, and maybe move Pedro out for him. We'll talk about Pedro later on and his issues, but Arsenal assets, wherever they are, great options. You could sell Sanchez if you're a Sanchez owner and bring Raya in this week. That's not a bad move. Covering the Arsenal defence, because I feel that not covering the Arsenal defence at all, you are very exposed to wildcarders who've got a couple of their assets. So I think that sounds defensive, but
I think so. I don't think we should be too hopefully West Ham will improve. I say hopefully as a non-Arsenal defensive owner. Like they've already shown that, they just got away to Everton, which is tough. I know it's Arsenal, but Arsenal only played obviously the last night or the night before as well. West Ham will, I think, take a lot from that point away at Everton, because I think if Potter had been in charge, I think Everton would have beaten them fairly easily, judging on both things. So I don't think it'll be an easy game for Arsenal. I expect Arsenal to win, but I'm not gonna base a transfer based on one fixture, because have Arsenal got Palace next? Is that right, or is that game week 9? I can't.
It's coming
It's
soon.
coming.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Who've Arsenal got? They've got. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Away to Fulham in 8, Palace in 9. So I don't think they're that great defensive fixtures personally. I expect them to concede in at least one of those. So I get it about defending against the wildcarders, but it depends who it depends who you've got on your team, I think, as well. So I'm not that bothered about missing out on one if you've still got a decent team. I mean, my keepers are rubbish this week. I've got Sanchez and Sells, I think. So I'm a bit, in a bit of stuck there. But more broadly speaking, I've got Spurs, got Senesi and this, and stuff. So I'm not too bothered. I think it depends who you've got on the rest of your team personally. But
tell you someone I tell you someone I have still got in my team, and that's the guy on the left-hand side of this slide. So I didn't sell Ismaila Sarr for Palace when he got injured. I kept him on my bench and thought, I still want this guy. I didn't want to waste the transfer bringing him in. So I rode it out, and he got me an 11-pointer last week.
That's insane.
So against Liverpool. So he is back in the side. So is Adam Wharton. And, Palace were second until Arsenal won that game in the last seconds last week. So they're going really, really well. And I'm very pleased with my Palace assets, and I think you'll see Sarr. If people were carding this week, Sarr would be in an awful lot of drafts probably in that Ndiaye position instead. People will go for him now. 6.4 million, great option. Also at similar price, Jeremy Doku, who seems to be pretty nailed at the moment according to Pep, and dribbling his way into all those assists for Haaland week in, week out. He seems to be the main provider at the minute, but not in many teams. So again, really, really good differential.
What would your order be, Rich, in terms of Foden, Doku, and Reinders if you were to pick a 1, 2, 3?
Well, they're all different prices.
That's a good point.
I think I'd probably go with Doku this week just because of form. Reinders have been a bit up and down. I have Reinders, no intention to really sell him, but I think if I was going this week, I'd probably go Doku. I think Foden's there are better options at 8 million than Foden, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm still not sure about his minutes, but Doku is clearly going to be one of those players who you're always going to be looking at the team sheet. I'm very pleased with Reinders in terms of the minutes he's got. As a game week 1 pick, he's been overachieved on minutes. So maybe he's due a rest. He's played in every game and plays 90 most weeks. So Doku is on form and certainly seems to be first pick, but there are other options there for Pep. So I think Doku deserves his place on the slide this week. And then right at the back, Granit Xhaka. Thanks, Scott, for the Granit Xhaka picture. I did put Jadon Anthony forward from Burnley. He's the 4th highest scorer in the game and a nice enabler. I think Anthony is like 5.5 million, I think it is. But Xhaka is really, really proving to be the engine room of that Sunderland attack. Getting Defcons most weeks. Clearly, loads of experience, and certainly partly responsible for how they've started the season so well. So if you need a 5 million enabler, then Xhaka's your man. What do you think of him?
Yeah, I like him, mate. I think he's probably one of the best options. He's in the best 3 of that 5 million range, but as I mentioned earlier, you can go up just a bit more and get. If you are going cheaper in defence for Defcon defenders, you can afford to get your Anthony, Paqueta, and even Sarr is 6.4. I know it's 1.4 million, but it's still they're light years away. Sort of away in points potential, aren't they? So I think if you've just got the 5 million left, he's a good option. But I would try and kind of wiggle your team around and get to one of these other players personally. But
I agree.
Let's have a look at some predicted points for the next 4 game weeks based on everything we just talked about then. So Haaland is top. You can get all these predicted points on Fantasy Football Hub. Haaland is top for the next 4 game weeks, 28.6 points, with Salah just behind, still at 27.5. Don't forget, the algorithms of a lot of it is based on historical performance, of which these two, especially Salah, is absolutely insane ever since he joined the Premier League, right? His very first season onwards. Bruno just a bit further down on 23, Saka 22, Semenyo 22, Gyökeres 22 as well. Mateta and Isak just behind with Watkins and Gabriel on 22 as well. Cunha is still very much fancied by the AI. I think he got 90 minutes last week. Foden is up there. We've mentioned him. And Buemo. Who is that? Your phone? Is that your doorbell, Rich?
Someone was delivering something.
Somebody at the door.
It's an Amazon delivery. Sorry.
Superb. That's all right, mate. Foden and Buemo are there as well. But it's nice to see a couple of defenders. Arsenal defenders are in this top 20 as well. Gabriel, as we say, he's not flagged yet. If he's flagged, obviously that will reduce. And Timber is in there as well. We touched on Timber, and he's 0.4 less than Gabriel. With probably, it's fair to say, so far he showed a bit more attacking intent, even though Gabriel may be a touch more nailed. So, yeah, some interesting stuff there. And if we were wildcarding this week, this is the wildcard team that the Hub AI spits out, and it's quite interesting. So it has gone for Vicario in goal. With Devrabka as the 4 million option. Obviously, we don't know the extent of Alisson's injury yet, but I think is Philly, is he 4.3 or something? If Alisson is out for 6 or 7 weeks or something, he could be a real option. You could go Philly and Devrabka, for example, for a combined starting value of 8.3 million, which would be absolutely insane. It likes Gabriel, and then it's got Munoz and Richards at the back with Alderete and Rodon, which is very, very strong defense there. It still likes Bruno. The algorithm loves Bruno. Semenyo, Foden, and then Njai. Yeah. And it goes for King as a 4.5. And then
I'm really surprised it's gone Watkins over Gyökeres with those fixtures. I'm really surprised, and the form as well.
Haaland, Watkins, and Mateta. But look at the predicted points, mate. Obviously, the Burnley game is a good fixture this week. It goes without saying. Yeah. It's been interesting to see if he'd be in the game week 8 wildcard team. I don't think he would. No. But he's still predicted to score 5.1 away to Spurs, 5.3 to Man City, and I think I said this on the last pod. Obviously, one on last week. I may have said the week before. Like Watkins and Villa just haven't suddenly turned, into a bad team. He's still a very good player. Plays for a good team. They've just been out of sorts, and you wouldn't be surprised to see him score in both those games, or maybe you would. I know Villa haven't been great, but thing with teams, especially good teams, is they can just turn their form around. Then they're a different animal. So I wouldn't have him.
I'm encouraged to see the 3 Palace options in there. Yeah, I would probably still have 3 Palace options, but I'd go Sarr over Ndiaye.
I would agree with that, mate, as well. Superb stuff. But that is the Fantasy Football Hub wildcard team so far for this week. Fergie is a punt for game week 7.
Quite a few people speculating in the chat as to what this might be.
Fergie. And there's, I think, a couple of. I don't know if I'm becoming predictable, Rich. Am I becoming predictable? We haven't mentioned him so far today. I don't think. But I'm going for this player. He's a fabulous player in his own right. The next clue may slightly give it away. I'm guessing his ownership is obviously low since.
Has he got hair like Princess Diana?
He's got. There's been lots of memes going around about his hair all week, I think. But I think this week in particular is a fabulous. If you are interested in bringing him in, I think this week is the week to bring him in, because I do like the fixture. They're home to Nottingham Forest. Scored a couple of penalties in midweek. And I think that Anthony Gordon is going to be potential to be a staple in lots of wildcard midfields over the coming weeks. Chef AB got it right, and there was someone right at the top of the show who got it right as well. Like in the first minute we were live, I thought he'd like seen the slides or something, but very well done. I am becoming predictable by the look of it. I've gone for Anthony Gordon, but I really, really like him, and I think is he 7.5? I want to say
dropped a bit. I think he might be 7.4. I think he might be
7.4. Yeah. I mean, goodness me, and you talk about Foden as an example. Foden was maybe rotation risk, not on penalties, not exactly been blowing up the will. Whereas Anthony Gordon is, he's potentially the new talisman now at Newcastle. Looks like he's on penalties as well, I think he could be an absolute gem over these coming weeks. And I think this week, start this weekend, Holmes Nottingham Forest. I think if I was wildcarding this week, he'd be in my team. Differential this week, get him in.
Forest, that was the start. That was the start of the fix. I think this fixture happened at the same time last year, and that was the start of your Chris Wood run, wasn't it? Because Forest won that fixture 3-1 last year. I think
I think you're right.
I think you're 3-1. But good pick, mate. I really like that one. Certainly, Newcastle haven't been sort of off the radar, haven't they, for people this week? Hardly see Newcastle assets in any team, so real differential pick there. Well done.
He is, and I think there's a lot of opportunity this week with players like Gordon, players like Sarr, who are reasonably low owned. I think who are just, I don't know. I like to explain this, sort of bubbling under, and they're gonna. For me, anyway, they're gonna explode soon, And the earlier you get on these players, there's no point Gordon getting a goal and assist this weekend and everyone brings him next weekend. You want him this weekend, so that is the time to bring him in. I have to say, I don't think I can afford him. I'm gonna have to have a look, but anyway, I go with him this week. Rich against the machine, game week 7. So this is where Rich picks a player we think has been undervalued by the AI.
Yes. Okay. I'm not doing too well so far. I think I've missed a week, but it's 3-1 to the AI at the moment. So I need a win this week. Saka didn't get the assist for the Gabriel goal, did he?
No, it was. I was away, so I didn't watch much of the football.
Yeah, I know, because he normally takes the corners. That's all I was thinking. Maybe he was off the pitch or something.
I think it was Odegaard. I want to say Odegaard. Right, I'm sure that let us know in the chat.
If Saka did get this, Saka was my pick last year. Last week he was only predicted 4.3 points or something. If he'd got the assist, he would have only got 4 anyway because he didn't start the game, did he? So. I think three of my picks in the Rich Against the Machine haven't started, so they need to start the game. But there we go. This one I'm pretty sure is going to start. He's predicted 4.1 points only. He's playing the bottom team in the league. I've seen him mentioned already in the chat today as a high form, high upside pick. And I really like him. I really like the way that Brighton are playing. And so my Rich Against the Machine pick for game week 7 is Yankuba Minte. This week.
Another
4.1 predicted points. I think he's probably the pick at Brighton at the moment for form. Really seems to be justifying some of the hype about him from last season. Seems to have settled down in the side. And I'm hoping I can, you can get an assist at least and get me the win this week. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I really like him, mate. And this is where, and this isn't a plug, even though it is. Fantasy Gaming Hub. These are the kind of players I can now go because I don't own any of these players. Gordon, Minte, Sarr. You can bang them into your Fantasy Gaming Hub team and really look forward to them scoring some points. And that's the beauty of that app is it takes a bit of the emotion out of FPL out. So yeah, but I think he's a cracking pick for this week, mate. I really do like it. And as you say, he's looked incredibly sharp. I really do think he's a good pick moving forward as well. I agree. Shall we have a look at the best captain this week? It's probably a bit of a landslide. Erling Haaland is top of predicted points with 6.9. Just behind is Ollie Watkins, obviously home to Burnley this week.
Sold last week, mate. Sold him. Five blanks was enough. I couldn't quite go.
5 was enough. So, I always hold on for 6, mate. Yeah. Bruno Fernandes is also up there, 6.5. Cunha as well. But I think Sunderland have been, well, they have been. It's not I think. Sunderland, on the eye and statistically, have looked very, very good in defence. And I'm probably thinking that the AI is probably looking at that fixture as an absolute banker, maybe based on some stats we got at the start of the season or something. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think it'd be a good game.
if United lose that, I think that could be the end of Amorim in the international break. I think this is a really, if there's any United fans in the chat, I don't know what you think, but basically, I think United have got to win that game for him to get any longer. I think if they lose that, that'll be it.
I think they're going to lose it, mate. I'm gonna have a bet. I'm gonna have a bet this weekend.
Yeah.
I think Sunderland are going to do them. I just think Sunderland are so on the up, and United are so not. I think the Sunderland have got the bit between their teeth, and United just haven't had it.
I think I'm going to keep enough money back to do Bruno to Saka in Gameweek 8 in that case, because he may be one of the short. I certainly won't be giving him 5 blanks, that's for sure. But yeah, surprised to see him third on the list. He is my vice captain at the moment, Fernandez. But yeah, Cunha high, and Buemo might be on penalties, mightn't he? Now we don't know.
I can't see it personally, but
no, he'll get one more, won't he?
I think so. Cunha, Salah, Semenyo, Saka all hovering around the 6-point mark, and then Buemo, Gyökeres, De Ligt against Sunderland. Oh, I'm not sure. He really likes United this week. Loads of players. Mateta, Timber, Sesko, do me a favour. Foden, Sesko, all around the 5 points.
Absolutely.
Dissing Sunderland. Incredible. But yeah, I think Haaland, he's on such an incredible streak. 2 more midweek as well. Can't see past it. And Brentford, I think, have got the 18th worst expected goals conceded so far this season. I'm sure I saw that stat earlier.
Yeah, I think they've done better than I expected, but I think City will have too much for them on the weekend. Yeah, and we've got an early game, haven't we, this week? We've got an early kickoff, I think.
We've got Bournemouth Fulham on Friday evening. Yeah. So I think is it the first Friday of the season apart from game week 1? I think it might be.
I think we've had one or two Friday kickoffs, but it's the first one for a while. Yeah, deadline is at 6:30 tomorrow, guys. So don't miss it.
Superb. FPL Freddy says apparently they won't get rid of Amorim until November for financial reasons. You've got a lull, haven't you? Superb. Because Amorim's compensation package runs out in November, so it'll be the next international break, mate, when he's
okay. Oh, definitely. He's gone.
Okay. Just a bit on projected goals and clean sheet odds, thanks to RobT FPL on X. Follow him if you don't already. Arsenal predicted to score the most. Arsenal predicted to score the most goals this week, 2.56 against West Ham. Man City. 2 Man United 2.08 actually, which is interesting. I think the nerve, mate. Get on Sunderland and Anthony Gordon double this week. Gordon to score, Sunderland to win. That's the double this week.
Yeah.
And Villa and Newcastle also on 1.84 as well. Liverpool 1.7, Bournemouth 1.63, and clean sheet odds. Arsenal incredibly high. We mentioned Arsenal defender looks good this week. 51% chance of a clean sheet. 42 for Aston Villa. And 39th Man United. Do me a favour. Sunderland, Anthony Gordon double this week.
Yeah, below that though, if you look at my defence, I haven't got much chance. I've got 2 Tottenham defenders at 28%. That Leeds game's looking too close to call, isn't it? Tottenham's forms, away forms not looking great anymore. Yeah, there's not a lot else out there, is there? Chelsea, Liverpool, it's got 1-1 written all over it, hasn't it? Really. So yeah, the United is surprising delta there between United and Sunderland. I'd have put that more like the Chelsea-Liverpool game, wouldn't you? But there we are.
I would indeed. So let's have a look at our teams now. Rich, we've got your team on screen. You want to run us through your teams and your plans for Game Week 7?
Yeah, a bit of a dilemma on whether to play Sanchez or to Dubravka. I've not got a great deal of confidence in Chelsea's defence, but I think Sanchez really just for the save points. I think he might get 6 saves or something and get me a 3, but I'm not expecting a clean sheet against Liverpool. I will play Munoz. I will probably play Van de Ven over Anderson, I think, and I will probably sell Pedro Porro for Gabriel, assuming that the prognosis is still good on. I will bring an Arsenal defender for one of the Tottenham defenders. I think I've never really liked defensive double ups, but I think the two Spurs now has run its course, and I will move one of them on. But I think I don't really want to spend for 5.5 on a defender. I'd rather have a premium or a sub 5 million player. So Porro will go because he's rotation prone. and Gabriel or Timber will come in. I think I will move Pedro to the bench because of the slight injury doubt. He's not going to join up with the Brazil team. Ancelotti has let him off to recover from a slight injury. So I don't think he needs to be left out. I mean, Chelsea, we haven't really got anyone to play in that position. I can't believe they're going to start George or Gu in that match. So I mean, they may play someone in a false nine or something, but I think João Pedro will start, but I've got to leave someone out because I've got to play Rodgers, haven't I? I've got to play Morgan Rodgers at home to Burnley. I can't bench that.
I think so, mate. No,
and
that's what you'd be holding out for.
Yeah, well, Semenyo, Bruno, Sarr, and Reinders across the middle. Reinders was the other person I considered benching, but Haaland captain and Mateta, I'm very happy with those guys. So good fixture. I think it's a decent fixture against Everton. I think Palace will score in that game. So quite happy to play my Palace guys. And then on the bench, I've got Pedro at the moment, Van der Ven, and Esteve. But as I say, I may swap Anderson for Van der Ven because I think Bournemouth will probably get a couple against Fulham tomorrow night.
Okay, mate.
Do you think I've got that right? Who would you bench?
I think so. Yeah, I think so, mate. I think I'm selling João Pedro at the moment. I know the fixtures are good, but I might bring him back after the break for Watkins. Maybe, but we'll see. But okay. Yeah, I think you got it right there, mate. I'm not sure on Pedro Porro. I think he was just having a rest last week. Personally, I think all three fullbacks have looked really good. Pedro Porro, when he plays, his stats are really strong. So I'm not saying not to sell him, but I personally think he starts. But
all right, well that's good to know. So I've got enough money to do Pedro to Gyökeres. What do you think of that?
That's the upside move, mate, isn't it? That's the upside move. I think Porro to Gabriel. I think Porro away to Leeds is a decent fixture for Porro. And Gabriel, obviously, a decent fixture. Gabriel may not even play. And then you're giving up someone you're going to bench for a very highly owned against engaged managers who could run riot this weekend. That's how I see it in my, my basic wisdom personally. But that would be my move if I was you. I'm doing a hit to do that move, so. But
yeah. Well, Pedro was one of these guys.
Was guaranteed to play. Then maybe be a bit more tempted, but he's not guaranteed to play.
No, I know. It is potentially on penalties. Potentially he could get a brace, couldn't he? And remember half the world. Well, most of the world
against Leeds. When we done against Leeds, didn't he? Scored 2 against Leeds, and
All right. Well, okay. Let's move on to your team,
mate. Yeah. I'm stuck between Sanchez and Sells. Neither fill me with much joy. Sells away to Newcastle. Sanchez home to Liverpool. I'd probably go for Sanchez, you say, maybe just for save points, but I'm not excited at either of them. And then at the moment, Senesi, Romero, and Porro, at the back. I'm fairly happy with that. Got a midfield of Semenyo, Foden, Kudus, Reinders. So I'm very all in on. Well, I've got 3 Spurs and 3 Man City. I'm very much all in on those. And Gakpo's in at the moment, but I don't think I'll be starting Gakpo. And then I've got Haaland and Watkins in front. So I'm quite excited to hold quite a lowish owned Watkins at home to Burnley this week. I think he could do some damage this week, which is the only reason I held him.
How much you got in the bank?
I think I've got 0.5 roughly. Okay. It says 0.5 on the screen here, but I'm not sure if that has taken into account the price rise, but it's 0.5. So if I wanted to get to Gyökeres from João Pedro, I'd need to make a hit. I need to do a hit. So my early thoughts, I mean, I could just roll, right? I've got a decent team, but I am a bit concerned about having no Arsenal, as I mentioned earlier. I know I went off earlier and said, it's only 1 game. But like I say, I think I'm not too concerned about Gabriel, but I am concerned about Gyökeres. Is very, very highly owned. I think he has the potential to go off this week. and João Pedro may or may not start. And if he doesn't start, I'm bringing in Gakpo to Chelsea. I'm not really sure on Gakpo's minutes, and then I'm down to Ekdal and De Kuyper. So I'm not confident enough there to kind of do that when there's so many good players available. So what I'm tempted to do is go João Pedro to Gyökeres, which will mean I'll need to take a hit, and I can either do Gakpo to Sa, which is quite a nice future-facing move as well.
Yeah.
I've got enough money to do that, or I could do Porro down to someone else. But Spurs are home. Spurs have got Villa and Everton next as well, which I do. I don't mind those fixtures. They're home. They're home to Villa next.
Do you think they're still defending well?
Yeah, I'm happy with Spurs.
I didn't really sort of spend a great deal of time analysing their performance against Wolves, looking at their game in Norway, was it this week? Their results just seem to have fallen off a cliff. And
I don't think that bad, mate. They've just drawn. They've drawn against. Right. They drew against Wolves and away to Bodo, but they still haven't lost.
Right. Okay.
So I'm not really that far. Who did they beat? They obviously lost to Bournemouth, didn't they? A surprise home loss against Bournemouth, but they came back the following week. I can't think who they beat now, and they had a really good win straight away. Who did they beat? West Ham 3 or 4-0 or wherever it was. Just a pretty routine win. So I'm still quite happy with Spurs personally. I'm fine with them.
Right.
And Leeds is, I know Leeds have improved, but Arsenal battered Leeds, and I know that Leeds are okay, but I do think Spurs are better, and I'm quite happy to hold at the moment, especially with I think it's the players I've got as well. Like with Kudus, even though Spurs haven't been superb, every time I've seen Kudus, he's been incredibly dangerous. He's been really unlucky not to have more returns, actually, I think. So they're my early thoughts. It'd be interesting in the chat. It was West Ham away. And as MBO just said, I think this is what I've been saying to my son, who's been saying, we've been drawing. He said last season Spurs lost all those games that we drew this season. It's a good improvement. I completely agree with that. Is last year we would have lost those matches and we've come back and drawn those. So definitely improved. It's definitely a more of a grit there, like that Spursiness hopefully is being beaten out of them after the 45 years of my life. But let me know in the chat what you think of what I should do. I still haven't really got any plans to sort of wildcard. I'm looking at Gameweek 8 wildcard, but then I look at the fixtures that my team have got. I've got triple Spurs home to Villa, triple Man City home to Everton. I've got an all right team, I think. So I think
enjoy the break and kick it down the road, because if you've wildcard during the break, you'll be thinking about your FPL team for 2 weeks.
Would you take a hit, Rich, for Gyökeres?
No, I wouldn't take a hit for anyone this week, especially after what happened last week with taking a hit for Bruno. That's put me off taking hits for about another 4 months, I think, to be honest. Won't see any more hits from me for a while. No, I mean, I don't think so. I think you take hits when you can't get 11 out, or when you really need to switch.
You need to get Haaland in
and enable something. Yeah, exactly. I don't think you need to take a hit. These almost feel like luxury transfers. Pedro to Gyökeres feels a bit like an unnecessary move, a little bit, because in game week 8 and 9, Pedro's he's banned for the Champions League, so he's bound to play those 2 games. He's not going to need to be rotated. It's just whether or not he is injury prone, and last international break he took quite a long time to recover from a knock, didn't he? So if he has got something wrong, could well be the time to climb off him. So I'll have a look at that Pedro to Gyökeres move. I think is certainly something I'll consider in the next 24 hours.
Or all the stuff there we just talking about Defcon. I could do something like De Kuyper to Richards for free and play 4-4-2, for example. I could do that. Yeah. So I need to give some thought. But I would say, I've said it all season. I've played every single game week my way this week, and I'm enjoying it because of that. I haven't got any regrets on anything I've done. I haven't got any regrets on the Chris Woods Triple Captaincy. I haven't got any regrets on the on any move I've made, and whatever I make this week will be my own decision. And I'm really enjoying it, regardless of my rank. And that for me is the main thing this year, is just to really enjoy playing the game, and I really have this year for the first time in a long time. So anyway, that is it from us for this week. Thanks to everyone who's joined in the chat, those going to watch it back, and those listening on the podcast version. Your support is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much to Scott, the producer, as well, doing all the really good work behind the scenes as usual, putting up the polls, etc. as well. My handle on Twitter and X is at @Fergi. Rich, superb as usual. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on X and Blue Sky.
Lovely stuff. This podcast video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Drop us 5 stars and a comment. Please do, if you haven't already. And we'll be back in 2 weeks after the international break, looking ahead to game week 8, which will probably be... I don't think we are, but we'll do it as like a wildcard special, right? Because there'll be lots of people.
Might be a bench boost special for me.
A bench boost special for Rich.
If everybody stays fit, yeah. But that's not likely in an international break.
Spoiler alert: Rich Clarke bench boosting. Love Gary Anderson comments in the chat, mate. So Gary Anderson bench boosting in game week.
Well, I had you mate. If you've already gone to bed, like I got my darts out last week for the goodbye, you know. So yeah.
Superb. In the meantime, we have a fantastic game week 7. Enjoy the international break, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.